This morning, an Iranian ballistic missile launched from inside Iran crossed Iraqi airspace, crossed Syrian airspace, and entered the eastern Mediterranean on a trajectory toward Turkey. Turkey is a member of NATO, a country covered by Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty, NATO's collective defense clause. NATO air defense systems tracked the missile and destroyed it before it could reach Turkish soil. Debris landed in the Dörtyol district of Hatay province in southern Turkey. No casualties. But here is what many people are not fully explaining: what it means when an Iranian ballistic missile heads toward the territory of a NATO member state. I am going to break that down in a moment. But first, while that missile was falling over Turkey, something happened in the Indian Ocean that has not happened since 1945. A United States Navy submarine, operating approximately 40 nautical miles south of Sri Lanka, fired a torpedo and sank the Iranian frigate IRIS Dena. 180 crew on board, 87 bodies recovered, 32 rescued, the rest are missing. That appears to be the first time a U.S. submarine has sunk an enemy warship in combat since the Second World War. 81 years, and those are just two of the things that happened today. Welcome to the Sandtable. This is briefing number 16. If you are not subscribed yet, subscribe and hit the bell right now, because in the next 18 minutes, I am going to take you inside 7 developments from day 5 that may have changed the trajectory of this war. Iran's missile capability has dropped dramatically. The Strait of Hormuz has now seen a container ship hit. Hegseth says America is just getting started. Iran's hackers tried to fight back in cyberspace, and so far have had limited impact. And the Assembly of Experts says they are close to picking a new supreme leader, after reports that their meeting site was struck. Let me start with Turkey, because this is the story that changes the legal and political framework of this entire conflict. Turkey's defense ministry confirmed the intercept this morning, stating the Iranian ballistic missile was engaged and rendered inactive over the eastern Mediterranean. The missile had crossed 2 countries and was heading toward Turkish territory when NATO air and missile defense assets, part of the integrated system that protects all 32 member nations, tracked it, locked on, and destroyed it. Now here is the detail that matters. A Turkish official told AFP that the missile was likely aimed at a military installation on the island of Cyprus, specifically the British base at Akrotiri, and veered off course. Whether that is true or not, the missile entered Turkish airspace. That is a serious incident involving a NATO ally. But whether it is legally treated as an armed attack depends on intent, impact, and the political judgment of NATO members, not on airspace entry alone. Turkey's response was immediate but measured. President Erdogan addressed the nation and said Turkey is taking all necessary precautions. The Turkish foreign minister called Iran's foreign minister directly. Iran's ambassador was summoned to Ankara. But here is what Erdogan did not do. He did not invoke Article 5, and the Pentagon confirmed there is no expectation that this incident will trigger Article 5. Now let me explain why that decision is more significant than the intercept itself. Article 5 has been invoked exactly once in NATO's history, after September 11th. If Turkey had pushed to escalate this under Article 5, it could have dramatically widened the conflict and increased Allied military involvement. But Article 5 does not automatically mean every NATO country goes to war immediately. Each member state decides what actions it considers necessary. But here's the part that should concern Iran. This is now the second time in 3 days that Iranian weapons have reportedly affected NATO-linked territory. On day 3, a Shahed drone reportedly hit the runway at RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus. On day 4, more drones were reportedly intercepted over Cypriot airspace, and a Greek F-16 reportedly shot down another one offshore. Today, a ballistic missile headed toward Turkey. The pattern is escalating. And the IRGC made it worse. General Sardar Jabari publicly threatened to launch missiles at Cyprus with enough intensity to force the Americans off the island. That is a direct threat against territory tied to European security interest, and Europe is responding. Greece has deployed F-16 fighter jets and frigates to protect Cyprus. France sent the frigate Languedoc with additional air defense systems. Germany dispatched forces to the island, and Italy is considering sending the destroyer Caio Duilio. What started as a U.S.-Iran conflict is pulling European militaries into defensive positions they have not held in this region at this scale in decades. Now let me take you to the Indian Ocean, because this story rewrites naval warfare history. Approximately 40 nautical miles south of Gala, Sri Lanka, a United States Navy submarine engaged and sank the IRIS Dena, an Iranian Mauj-class frigate, with a torpedo. The Dena was one of Iran's most capable domestically built warships and had been operating far from Iranian waters, likely attempting to reposition away from the immediate kill zone in the Persian Gulf. War Secretary Pete Hegseth confirmed the kill at this morning's Pentagon briefing and described it as the first time a U.S. submarine has sunk an enemy warship since World War II. That is not a minor footnote. For 81 years, the U.S. submarine fleet has been the most powerful undersea force on Earth. But it had not fired a weapon in combat against a surface warship in this way since the Pacific Campaign against Japan. Today, that changed. Here's the technical detail many reports are skipping. The Mauj-class frigate displaces roughly 1,500 tons. It carries anti-ship missiles, torpedoes, and a helicopter. Against a modern U.S. nuclear attack submarine, a Virginia-class or a Los Angeles-class boat, it was at a major disadvantage. The submarine likely detected the Dena from miles away using passive sonar, closed to firing range without being detected, and launched a Mark 48 heavyweight torpedo. The Dena's crew may have had only seconds of warning, if they had any warning at all. Of the 180 crew members aboard, 87 bodies have been recovered and 32 crew were rescued as of this afternoon. The rest are unaccounted for. That is a catastrophic loss for a Navy already under intense pressure. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper confirmed today that the U.S. has now struck or sunk more than 20 Iranian naval vessels since the operation began, including one of Iran's most operational submarines. Iran's blue water naval capability appears to be severely degraded. Fast attack boats and coastal missile batteries remain, but the ships that were meant to project Iranian power beyond the Persian Gulf are now either sunk, disabled, or trapped. And while the Navy was sinking, something else was collapsing. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane stepped to the podium at the Pentagon this morning and delivered a number that tells you a lot about where this war stands. Iranian ballistic missile and drone launches have fallen by 86% since Operation Epic Fury began 5 days ago. 86%. In the first 48 hours of this war, Iran was firing large numbers of missiles and drones per day. At Israel, at Gulf states, at U.S. bases, and at commercial shipping. Today, that number is down sharply. Kane said the reduction is a direct result of the systematic destruction of Iran's launch infrastructure, mobile launchers, fixed sites, command and control nodes, and ammunition depots. The U.S. and Israel have struck a large number of targets across Iran. B-2 stealth bombers, B-1 Lancers, carrier-based Fa-18S, and Israeli F-35S have been hitting launch sites around the clock for days. Hegseth reinforced the message at the same briefing. He said, and I want you to hear the framing, the United States is just getting started. Iran cannot outlast us in a prolonged conventional fight. He confirmed that President Trump will attend the dignified transfer of remains for the 6 American service members killed in action, and announced that a White House meeting with Lockheed Martin, RTX, and other defense contractors is scheduled for Friday to discuss munitions replenishment. That last detail matters more than it sounds. When the War Secretary publicly schedules a meeting with ammunition manufacturers during an active campaign, he is sending a signal, not just to the defense industry, but to Iran. The message is, we are planning for a sustained operation and we are making sure the supply chain can support it. But Iran still has one weapon that does not require a missile launcher, the Strait of Hormuz. Today, the crisis in the strait crossed a new threshold. The Egyptian-flagged container ship Safeen Prestige, with roughly 1,700 TEU capacity, was struck near Oman and her crew was forced to abandon ship. That is the first container vessel reportedly hit in this conflict. Until today, the attacks had focused mostly on tankers. Now commercial cargo ships are being hit. Ship tracking data suggests the strait is becoming functionally unusable for normal commercial traffic. Traffic has dropped sharply from pre-war levels. Large numbers of ships are sitting at anchor waiting, and a significant share of regional commercial tonnage is now delayed. Major insurers announced they will cancel or suspend war risk coverage for the strait effective tomorrow, which means even if a ship wanted to transit, many operators may not be able to secure insurance at viable rates. The IRGC Navy commander, Mohammed Akbarzadeh, stated today that Iran maintains complete control of the Strait of Hormuz. That is almost certainly propaganda. Iran's Navy has taken heavy losses, and the U.S. Fifth Fleet still controls key deep-water channels. But Iran still has coastal anti-ship missile batteries, fast attack boats, and naval mines. Those are the tools of a force that may not win a direct naval battle, but can still make a waterway dangerous and commercially unusable. And right now, they are succeeding at disruption. The economic damage is accelerating. Brent crude is trading above $81 a barrel, up sharply since the war began. Analysts at JP Morgan are projecting oil could hit $100 if the strait stays closed. Qatar has halted LNG production after Iranian drone strikes on 2 major export terminals, putting a major share of global liquefied natural gas supply at risk. European natural gas futures surged, equity markets sold off sharply, and supertanker freight rates from the Gulf to China have surged to record or near record level. President Trump announced yesterday that the Navy will escort tankers through the strait if necessary, and the DFC will provide political risk insurance for Gulf shipping. That is the countermove, the U.S. government stepping in where private insurers will not. But escorting tankers through a strait threatened by missiles and mines is a very different operation from the air campaign over Iran. It requires minesweepers, patrol craft, convoy discipline, and constant vigilance. And it puts American sailors directly in the line of fire every single day. Now here is a story many people are not covering closely enough. Iran's cyber response has so far underperformed expectations. CrowdStrike confirmed today that there have been no large-scale confirmed state-sponsored cyber campaigns from Iran since the war began, at least not yet. Palo Alto Networks documented roughly 60 hacktivist groups active in the conflict space, but these are mostly low-level actors, defacing websites, launching denial-of-service attacks, and posting propaganda. The sophisticated state-backed operations that U.S. intelligence has warned about for years have not materialized at scale. Cloudflare's CEO reported something even more telling. Iranian cyber activity may actually have dropped since the strikes began. Analysts believe Iran's cyber operators may be facing the same disruption hitting their military infrastructure. If your command center is a target, you are not sitting calmly at a keyboard launching complex operations. You may be moving, hiding, or operating under severe constraints. That does not mean the cyber threat is zero. Jordan confirmed today that it thwarted an Iranian cyber attack targeting its wheat silo management system, an attempt to disrupt food distribution in a neighboring country. And a mobile app called Baid Saba, a religious calendar app with more than 5 million downloads inside Iran, was reportedly compromised to deliver anti-regime messaging to Iranian citizens. So the cyber battlefield is active, but Iran's vaunted digital warfare capability has not delivered the knockout blow many in Washington feared. There is one vulnerability worth watching. CISA, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the lead federal body for defending American networks, is operating under reduced staffing and budget pressure. If Iran decides to launch a major cyber operation against U.S. critical infrastructure, power grids, water systems, or financial networks, the agency tasked with helping defend those systems may not be at full strength. That is a gap that matters. Finally, the race to replace Khamenei, which may be the most consequential development that still is not getting enough attention. After reports that a key assembly of experts meeting site in Qom was struck yesterday, members of Iran's Assembly of Experts went on state television today and said they are close to picking a new supreme leader. One assembly member told Iranian media that the selection process will not take long. Another said they are near a decision. The reported frontrunner is Mojtaba Khamenei, the late supreme leader's son. The New York Times reported that Khamenei himself had nominated 3 possible successors before his death: Judiciary Chief Mohseni Ejei, a cleric named Asghar Hijazi, and Hassan Khomeini, the grandson of the revolution's founder. A provisional 3-member leadership council was reportedly established by Ali Larijani to hold power in the interim. Here is the analysis you will not get in most headlines. The speed at which the assembly is moving tells you the regime understands the existential nature of this moment. Without a supreme leader, the Islamic Republic's chain of command weakens at the top. The Revolutionary Guards answer to the supreme leader. The military answers to the supreme leader. Strategic decisions, including nuclear policy, are shaped through that office. Every day that office is unsettled, the regime's internal coherence erodes. And if reports are accurate that Israel struck the building where the vote was being organized, then this is not only a military campaign, it is also an institutional and constitutional pressure campaign against the regime itself. Let me give you the full Day 5 battlefield picture. The United States and Israel have struck a very large number of targets across Iran in 5 days. Iran's ballistic missile launches are down 86%. More than 20 Iranian naval vessels have been sunk or destroyed, including a submarine kill that Pentagon officials say marks the first U.S. submarine surface combatant kill since World War II. Iran's Navy appears to be functionally crippled in terms of blue water operations. 6 American service members have been killed in action, all in Kuwait. The Iranian death toll is estimated somewhere between the high hundreds and around 1,000, depending on the source. And those figures may still be undercounts given ongoing strikes and communication disruptions inside Iran. The war has now reached NATO-linked territory multiple times. A drone on Cyprus, a missile over Turkey. Europe is deploying military assets to the eastern Mediterranean at a pace not seen in years. The Strait of Hormuz is becoming functionally closed for normal commerce. Oil is above $81. Qatar's LNG production is halted. And somewhere inside Iran, 88 clerics are trying to find a secure enough room to cast their votes for the next supreme leader. Hegseth says America is just getting started. The 86% drop in Iranian launches suggests the regime is losing its ability to sustain high-volume attacks. The question now is not only whether Iran can keep fighting this war at the same intensity, it is whether the regime itself can survive the pressure. Subscribe, hit the bell, share this briefing with someone who needs to understand what Day 5 means, and tell me in the comments, does the submarine kill change how you see American naval power, or was it already obvious? I will see you at the next briefing.